This is a Grit Talk. My name is Ed Breen, and I'm here to answer 7 questions. What have you not done yet that you would like to be part of your story or included in your eulogy? Well, first of all, if it was a eulogy, I'd hope they would say, great husband, great father, great grandfather. Putting that aside and going to my business life, I would hope at the end of it all, people would just say, Ed tried to always do the right thing. I've had the luxury of being a CEO now for 27 years, running 4 companies, General Instrument, Motorola, my biggest challenge, Tyco International, and obviously now DuPont. And they've all been very exciting to run. I've really enjoyed it a lot, and I'll talk more about that. But one of the things when I took over Tyco, it was a company in significant crisis, and I knew it needed a lot of transformation. It was almost bankrupt, and it was certainly in a major scandal. And back in that time, there were about 5 or 6 of us that had a major scandal going on. If you read the Wall Street Journal every day, it was Tyco, WorldCom, Enron. Tyco, WorldCom, Enron. That was the tagline. Then it came Adelphi also, then Arthur Andersen, and they all went bankrupt. And we survived it barely and ended up with a great company. I finally split it up into 5 companies, and they all did very well. They thrived. The employees did great, and it was quite the fun transformation to go through. I got a call one day about 8 years ago from the lead director of DuPont saying, Ed, we'd really love you to come run the company. And I had just retired, and he also said to me, we need a lot of transformation at DuPont. I'm like, I don't know if I can go through this again. It's quite the heavy lift. But it was very interesting. What convinced me to do it was I knew a fair amount about DuPont because a couple of the former CEOs were friends of mine. Jack Krolby, and a very good friend of mine. He was the lead director at Tyco, actually, that I asked to come on to help salvage the company with me. So I was pretty familiar with DuPont, but it was very interesting. I read a couple books on DuPont. I went and visited the Hagley Museum, which, by the way, what a great thing to have the founding of this company from over 200 years ago, literally right down the road, still there. It's pretty incredible. And what really hit me was, how does a company survive for over 200 years? There's only a handful of them that have been around that long in this country. J.P. Morgan being one example, by the way, but there's not many of them. And what dawned on me as I kind of studied the history of the company was there had been many transformations at DuPont, but there were 7 really significant ones. And as I kind of went through them all, I'm like, you know what? That's why this company survived 200 years. So if I got to go be the CEO and go through a transformation, okay, this will be the 8th transformation. And hopefully this sets it up for a couple more decades. And by the way, somebody's going to do the 9th and the 10th one. To keep this company around for 300 years. So it kind of got me excited and motivated to go do it. And I'll just tell you the very beginning of that story. I started on a Monday 8 years ago. By Sunday, I'm sitting at the Hyatt Hotel up in Princeton, New Jersey on a napkin architecting a merger with the CEO of Dow. And we probably took about 2-3 months to figure it out, and then we announced that, and that was kind of the beginning of the transformation journey that we're on. So net, when I'm finished at DuPont, I hope people just say, hey, Ed did his best. He tried to do the right thing. And when I say do the right thing, for the communities we're in, for the employees that work for the company, and clearly, obviously, the responsibility I have for the shareholders of the company. So second question, how has failure or apparent failure set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite failure? Well, one of the reasons we picked the charity we picked here, Get Delaware Reading, which, by the way, is awesome, and United Way's work is awesome. I know Dr. Michelle Taylor's not here. She wanted to be. I think she's traveling today, but they do awesome work there. But one of the reasons we picked it, I don't know how much of this I actually remember, but this has been teased my whole life to me, that in first grade, at the end of first grade, I could not look at one word and read it. Forget a sentence. I couldn't read it. I was actually very good, they said, with math, with numbers, but I couldn't read it. And the teachers went to my parents and said, we probably should hold Ed back for a year and have him repeat first grade. Same thing happened in second grade. And the only reason they didn't hold me back was because my parents said, well, send him to a tutor all summer. And I did that 2 summers in a row, 3 times a week. I used to sit on a lady. I thought she was old. She was probably in her 40s. But when you're 6, she was an old person. And she literally used to sit there and flip cards up at me with words on it. And I would do that literally for an hour, 3 times a week. And I'd sit on her piano bench and do it. And at the end of the day, I think it was probably a confidence thing. As I look back, I don't know what the block was, but I finally got things on course by 3rd, 4th grade. And by the way, now I'm actually a ferocious reader, and my wife accuses me of reading every other line because how could you read that so fast? So things finally clicked. But there's a real interesting statistic out there. If you're not reading at the 3rd grade level by the time you finish 3rd grade, you have like a 400% chance, higher chance that you're not going to make it through high school. You're going to be a dropout. So reading proficiency is hugely important. By the way, one of the things, if you don't support it, you should take a look at it. I have now visited twice the CEB school right here across the road. They have 1,300 students there, a lot, through 1st grade on up. It is phenomenal what they do. Many of these kids did not come from a nurturing home environment that I was fortunate to come from, where my parents were really focused on me fixing that problem. These kids don't have that luxury, most of them. And that school there is so impressive what they're going to do. They're going to get a lot of these kids that would never made it out of high school. They're going to get out of high school and actually go to college. And it's interesting. My daughter always said to me, she was a missionary in Kisumu, Kenya. And when she came back, I said, Leslie, what's the biggest thing to get this cycle of poverty and all this out? She says, you need an education. You have to be able to read. And so the work that Get Delaware Reading does, United Way does, CEB over here is really incredible. And if you don't know all those organizations, what they do, you really should look into it and see if you want to support it. 3rd one, in the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life? So I was struggling actually the last 5 years. My wife's been wanting me to retire, and as I said, I've been doing this now 27 years. And she wants to retire, live down at our Florida house in the winter and all that. And it dawned on me, like the last 3 or 4 years, I keep kind of to myself going, Ed, why do you keep doing this? And and by the way, the question I always get is, Ed, what's your hobby? And it just dawned on me, my hobby is running the company. Like, I love it. I do have some other hobbies. I don't do them too often, but I'm like, I actually really like the job. I love being a CEO of a company, working with teams, solving problems, fixing things. I really enjoy it. Now, by the way, when you're a public company person, a big public company, I have to be honest, about 80% of it I love. There's 20% I wish I didn't have to do, but you sort of take the rocks that come with the field also. So I really came to that. All my friends, every time I go out to dinner with them, I get asked every single time I'm with them, Ed, when are you going to retire? I'm like, I don't want to retire. It's my hobby. And they just look at me like, they're doing their bucket list, they're playing pickleball, they're going out and golfing. I'm like, wait, good, you go do that, that's fun for you. I'm going to go to work. So my answer to that, retiring, I said, well, if I come into work 5 or 6 Mondays in a row and I'm not excited, I'll know I should retire. And that hasn't happened yet. So, by the way, I also found it fascinating. I mean, the pandemic we all know was horrible. We know people that lost their lives. It was really bad. But I said more times over that kind of 3-year window, with the pandemic, work from home, trying to keep our factories running, supply chain issues like crazy, massive inflation. I said, things happened during those 3 years, never happened in my whole career. And it made it fun. Though it was stressful because of the pandemic, new things are fun to learn. And when you're learning new things and you're working through these issues with your team, it's pretty darn exciting, or at least I find it exciting. So let me go to 4. What activities make you lose track of time? Well, that's pretty simple for me, because if I'm not working, I spend all my time with my family, my wife. I've been married 45 years. Just a great marriage. So I don't go golfing with my buddies and all that. My life is work and the family. The thing that makes me lose track of time is I have 6 grandsons. I have a 7th grandson on the way in August. My wife desperately wants a granddaughter. We can't seem to get one. And I think we might have one more chance. But I just love being with the grandkids, and I hope I'm around long enough to impart some of my wisdom on them as they become teenagers. My oldest one is 9, my youngest one is 2, and they are just a blast to be with. And it's one of the only things I can do that actually keeps my mind off of running the company. When you're with your grandkids, I don't have my phone, I don't have my iPad, I'm not looking at emails, I'm just having a great time with them, and so it's just a joy. What book do you most often give or recommend, and how has that book influenced you? A couple of years ago, I read, it was actually very interesting. I read Churchill, Walking in Destiny. Well, it was a fascinating book about World War II, and you know, I thought I knew a lot about it, but it's amazing between the communist Soviets and the Nazis and what was going on in Europe, and literally countries were just falling. And here's this little country, England, with Winston Churchill, who says, we're going to win this thing. What was interesting about the book, by the way, if you're a history buff, it's a phenomenal book to read, but was really impressive, sprinkled throughout it. You really walked away going, this man is a real leader. And you can learn a lot of leadership lessons if you read that. By the one of the funny things I didn't even think about, that's when I thought about the book, but talk about a person with grit. I mean, he would, if you just said one name, who has grit, he pops right to the top of the list. I'd say another word with his leadership style was tenacity. This was just one tough guy. He believed in himself. He had high confidence. He questioned everything, though. He did have a lot of empathy, which I think is very important in a leader, to have empathy. But he had the whole country not believing in what he was doing, how he was pursuing this. So he had public opinion against him when he's the prime minister in his mid-60s. And this man just had the fortitude, and you all know the history of it. So it's a great read, both from a history and a leadership perspective. What have you purchased or been given in the last year valued under $200 that has most positively impacted your life? Well, that's easy. That's sort of back to my kids and grandkids. So on my credenza at my office, I think I have 8 pictures, all of my family sitting there, but I have one like right in the front that I see most often. It's a picture of all, let's see, there's 16 of us, all hand in hand walking on the beach in Stone Harbor, New Jersey. I'm very fortunate. My wife and I have been going to Stone Harbor our whole adult life, so our kids kind of spend a lot of their summers at Stone Harbor, and we're very fortunate. They're all in their own businesses, and they all come in for at least 8 weeks in the summer and live at the shore. My oldest son lives in Nashville. He's got 2 of our grandsons. My daughter lives in Colorado. She has 3 of our grandchildren, and my youngest son lives in Philadelphia, and he has 1 and the 1 on the way. So it's just unbelievable that we get to spend 2 months together, the whole family. It's highly unlikely in today's world you can do that. But I always pester my wife. I don't want to take a picture every year down at the beach, Lynn, but somehow she hires somebody, we do it. And after that, though, sitting on my credenza, and I don't think there's a day goes by that I don't swing my chair around and take a look at it. It just kind of calms you down a little bit for a few minutes, and you get to reminisce about when you're going to see your grandkids again and all that. And so that's my $20 picture frame with the picture in it. It's awesome. Okay, if you could broadcast a message to everyone in the world knowing it would be received and remembered, what would it be? Well, I think it was Albert Einstein said, I have no skill. I'm just only passionately curious. And I've always, as I go through my career, I have found, I think that's what keeps me so interested in wanting to do it. I like learning, I like being curious, I like asking questions, and I think it makes for a better world. You know, in today's world, we're so polarized. Social media has probably made that 10 times worse. But asking people questions, their opinion, what's your side of it, and understanding that, I think the world would be a much better place if we were all curious, asked questions, and wanted to learn. I know in running a company, I ask a ton of questions. That's how I process, how do we get to the right decision? You got to get everybody's input. You're not a vacuum. You don't have all the answers. It's a team sport. If you get the input of your whole team and then make decisions, you're going to make way better decisions and you're going to do the right thing. So I would say be curious.